Hello, Roo.
Hey Ross.
How we doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well, man.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everyone listening.
Karate people out there.
Yeah. We're going to have a little chat about karate. Some very unprofessional opinions.
Yeah.
Coming to you from the Hombu Dojo, HTKI Hombu Dojo in Dublin, Ireland. My name is Ross. Beside me is Roo. We are professional instructors over here in Ireland, working very closely with Scott Langley Sensei. I'm sure a lot of you know him. If you don't, you should. And we're just going to talk a little bit about karate, some of our opinions, some of our thoughts, the kind of things we think about day to day in training, the philosophy of karate, you know, to a point, and just what's the general chit chat in the world of karate. But just now, new year, new me, resolutions. Roo, what's your New Year resolution?
I don't know. I'd say, well, I didn't really make it a resolution, but definitely when the new year happened, I had a little bit of a, would you call it an epiphany? Or maybe you would just call it a resolution. I just decided I was going to start training a lot harder. See, my volume of training has been very, very big since I started this job, training on average 8 hours a week on top of all the classes I teach. But I started off real gung-ho, the body got tired, got a bit fatigued, and I think I kind of slacked off. And then over Christmas I was going nuts because of that high volume of training I'd been doing. Then we had our Christmas holiday and I had no training at all. And I decided it's all very good and well having a high volume of training, but I'm going to commit more. I'm going to be trying to outdo everyone around me on the dojo floor. And just decided that as much as possible, I'm going to try and ensure that nobody is working as hard as me in the dojo. And maybe Nidan this year. Whoop, whoop.
Ooh. Intriguing. Maybe. The last one's intriguing. We need to have a talk about that. My New Year's resolution, well, I've started mine straight off the bat. I have decided to knock back on the boozing a good bit, to try and eat a bit better, and I thought, why not go to the extreme and just go vegetarian for 2 months. 2 months, I was realistic with myself. I thought, I can't just go vegetarian, but I thought if I go to an extreme for 2 months, so till the end of February, January, February, just nothing but veg, nothing but good clean food, you know, trying to cut down on carbs, trying to cut down on meats and stuff, just to see if it has any effect on my fitness, on my body, any benefits which you and Scott swear by that it will. So I'm in just over a week now, and it's going well. I thought I would find it tough. I've not found it that tough actually. I think the body's liking it a little bit of a change. I think what I will do though after the 2 months is I'll maybe bring meat back in, because I do love a steak. I do love my chicken. And stuff like that. I love my dead animals. So what I'll do is I'll maybe like eat meat, you know, maybe on the weekends and stuff, and try and be veggie, you know, weekdays. That way I'm staying healthy. It's good for the environment. It's good for the poor wee animals who die on a daily basis.
But 2 months is pretty good. Most people would make a resolution to do something like that for 1 month. For example, I'm doing dry January, trying not to drink this month. I failed once already.
Rue tried to do dry January, and we only came back on the 5th. The 5th. We were coming back, and we all were arriving back on the 5th at the same time. We're all coming back from our holidays, and I said to Rue, come on out, we'll go out, we'll all get together and have a drink and get drunk to welcome in the new year. And he went, okay. I didn't really have to twist his arm. So yeah, we stumbled, but yeah, you're back on it. And the other day you had your
I had a non-alcoholic beer for the first time in my life. It was delicious.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
but maybe there's probably a lot of people that aren't aware that Scott is vegetarian.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I'm vegan most of the time.
See, you shouldn't have said that, because now then when he travels places he gets to cheat because people just take him out to dinner, and he just eats what he wants. He doesn't, and it's like he's getting a jail free card. Now everyone's going to know.
He does it for some very legitimate, like some very immediate purposes. It's because meat inflames. Meat. How did he say it? Meat is an inflammatory, and for health reasons, you know, he's seen like sudden, immediate benefits to going vegetarian. So that's why he's doing it.
I mean, me personally, I think it's still too early to tell how much it's benefited me, but I'm not struggling with it. I thought I would struggle. I thought I would be craving meat a lot. I'm not really. I'm enjoying it. It's a nice change. I'm enjoying the fact that I'm rising to the challenge of changing my diet and stuff. So yeah, good time.
But speaking of New Year's resolutions, I have seen a lot of people in the karate internet world with things about, aiming for the next grade or knuckling down with regards to their training. We have certain people in the dojo here that I have noticed like a remarkable change in with regards attitude. People who perhaps had their progress stilted as of late, and they're coming in with a new kind of a new attitude, a new kind of and it's working. It looks like it's going to work for them.
I think just on what you were saying about your goals of training harder and stuff, like, I mean, it's easy. The body always tries to find its cheat codes, like in training. Like we do morning training, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Me Rue training all of Scott Sensei's classes, Rue trains in some of my classes that I teach in the evening for the adults. And when you're training constantly like that, the body looks for shortcuts. It looks for ways to. So when you know you're about to walk in the morning and do a Tabata session, your body will try and find a way of making the punch easier, making the kick easier, getting through the reps a little bit easier. So you've got to always be mindful of that. And it's difficult, but when you've had a break over Christmas and you have a chance to reevaluate and
reset,
have push reset button. People always come back with that motivation, but it's keeping that going, I think, is the tricky part. You always have to, again, like you say, be competitive with the people around you.
Yeah.
You've got to try and be the fastest, the strongest, technically the best. You've got to be the smoothest when you move. You've got to be the one that's always pushing it to that limit every time.
We'll come back to that later on, but in the meantime, speaking of being the fastest and the strongest, I've kind of been doing a fair bit of research lately on how to add muscle training and body training to my, to my regime in order to benefit my karate by doing things that aren't karate. I'm talking about lifting weights, I'm talking about certain, anaerobic training and animal movements, stuff like that. What do we think of that?
I think it's great. Before I moved here, I used to lift a lot of weights. It made me very strong. Not so much fast. I think I lost a lot of speed lifting weights, heavy weights, like for power. But it does make you very strong. Like I've got really strong legs now. Whenever we do like leg exercise and stuff, it's always a challenge. But I feel like I'm on the better end of the line when it comes to getting through it, because I've still got that power in my legs and glutes, my back as well. But I think it's good to a point. Like again, you want to be able to make sure that you're training the right way, the right thing. So you want, like, for karate purpose, like if you're catering it towards karate training, you always want to be explosive. You always want that fast twitch speed. You don't want to be doing those big powerlifting movements that require a lot of they do require like an explosive power, but not to the point where you're sitting at the halfway mark trying to force the weight up, like doing a big deadlift or something like that. Yeah. Like there's a certain point where that becomes counterproductive.
I see.
So it's that fast twitch. So anything that you do, any plyometric movements, calisthenics are great. Like doing lots of push-ups, sit-ups, like using your own body weight is great, because when it comes down to it, that's what we're using. So if you can, explode, like practice, jumping squats, for example, doing, large reps of them, conditioning the muscles to be able to do it for a long time, but you're still using that plyometric movement, that explosive movement to get up in the air, stuff like that. I think is really good for karate guys. Sprinting's very good for karate guys. But I think like going to the gym and doing bicep curls, wasting your time a little bit.
Yeah, that's for aesthetic purposes, I guess.
Yeah,
people want to look good too. You can't blame them. But I guess it's kind of the same thing as what you were talking about with the reset button. You can do months and months or years and years of repetitive ki hon, the same kumite drills, the same kata, and your body gets used to taking the shortcuts and doing what it has to do to make the shapes right, or doing what it has to do to make it look impressive. And then you go out, you find some new exercises to do, basically extracurricular stuff such as weights, calisthenic exercises. Do you think that's necessary to improve your karate? Do you think you have to go outside the karate box?
I think, yeah, I do. I think if you look at, I was in Okinawa in October November time, and you look at all the fun toys they've got there, which are used for conditioning, that they used in the Goju Dojo we were in. They had just a plethora of rocks and boulders and, all these sort of handcrafted sort of weights and tools that they would use to condition their bodies. And I think that, that's the roots of where karate is, and I think they're doing it back then for a reason. I think we can do it in a much, more beneficial way now with, the amount of knowledge that's out there with exercises. You look at, professional athlete, like combat athlete, whether it be in MMA, boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, judo, like they all do a form of conditioning, a form of strength and conditioning training.
Yeah.
And I think we as karate practitioners shouldn't be any different. We should do it, but do make sure you're doing it properly.
Do you think there's a level at which a person should start with strength and conditioning, such as black belt or brown belt?
I'm not so much sure about level. I think age. I think it's important. Like, you don't want to be jumping in like any young people, who are young listening into this. Like, if there's a certain age where you're going to do damage to your body if you try and go too gung ho with those kind of exercises too fast. But like, that's why body weight I think is the best thing, especially if you're getting started. Because it's you're using your own body weight. It's what your body's used to. Your body's used to it. If you add in a sort of external factor to it, like a barbell or an extra weight, you add in an extra tool, like even like a tube or something like that, that's putting extra strain on the body that maybe you're not ready for. But body weight stuff is something that your body cannot, your body can cope with. And it's just making sure, again, technique, has to be correct, all that good stuff.
So much stuff out there on the net with regards, proper form and making sure you're not injuring yourself.
Stuff easily, yeah.
But
I think, I don't think you can start it too early. I mean, I think if you're serious about your training and say you've like New Year resolution, you've went to a dojo, you've started karate, doing a couple extra push-ups or squats or sit-ups isn't going to
can only be a good thing.
Exactly,
right?
It's not going to hold you back at all.
Well, speaking about what's out there on the internet. We're going to get better at our segues, folks. This is our first podcast.
Speaking of,
how about that controversy?
Or the hikite
as of late.
It's like the karate apocalypse out there. Like the amount of debate and argument over.
Now it's always been, kind of bubbling at the rim, but recently it's overflowed.
Yeah.
And it's all thanks to our good friend Ian Abernathy. He really kicked it off.
Yeah, and I think I'm surprised that he got as much backlash from that as he did, because I think anyone who's punched something.
Well, hang on, did we mention what the controversy was?
Oh yeah, no.
We forgot. So
restart again.
Ian Abernathy has come out and said that hikite has nothing to do with power generation.
Nothing to do with power generation. Controversy. Internet exploded. How dare you? And I think he's right. I think the same myself. I don't think it has anything to do with power generation. I think it will make a difference if you actually have a hold of someone and the pulling hand pulling them in towards your punch. Obviously that's going to increase the force, but I think if you're just punching mid-air like we do in Kihon, or punching the makiwara or a bag or a pad, or someone without holding on to them, I don't think it's going to make any difference whatsoever.
So he made this video. It was about 12 minutes long. And at one point early on in the video, he mentioned that the purpose of hikite has already been quite clearly spelled out by Funakoshi in his first book. What is it, Karate Do Kyohon? Maybe that's the second one. Anyway, and he said, I'm going to roughly paraphrase, the purpose of hikite is to pull your opponent's limb in order to disrupt their posture. That's it. Didn't say it's got anything to do with power generation. Didn't say you're going to punch harder.
I mean,
it.
It's not really. I don't think it should be a debate. I mean, if you look at Mike Tyson make hikite when he punches, no.
Well, maybe it's because karate as a martial art gets a bit of stick for this strange thing that we're doing with our hand by our hip. People will say, "Where's your guard?" People will say, "What do you?" It looks silly from a boxer's perspective or a kickboxer's or.
I think again, it's people need to understand like Kihon, the Kihon that we do that perfect form is like Scott Sensei always says, it's weight training for your body. It's a way of conditioning your body to perform. So when you make hikite, like hikite isn't your hand at your hip. Hikite is the motion of your hand pulling back.
That's it. Your hand at your hip is just a
hand
shape.
at your hip's just the shape. That's not hikite. That's just the end result of hikite. It's not what it is. So having your hand at your hip doesn't matter. Like, I guess if you were then to say a boxer's hikite, if a boxer throws a right straight and their left shoulder comes back and their right shoulder comes forward, maybe, and their hand's still at their chin, maybe that's a small form of hikite, if you want to call that, because they're pulling their one shoulder back and sending the other shoulder forward. You could maybe argue that that's hikite.
Would a boxer bring his other shoulder back?
Yeah, but then that's the rotation, that's the twist, yeah.
Mm.
But maybe do they kick their shoulder back when they hit? Who knows? Maybe some do, some don't. But I think that people get so sort of they put the blinders on. They only see hikite as hand on your hip, and that's just silly.
So, as the debate raged, Mr. Abernethy came out. He posted a piece of paper where it seems like he'd done some really complicated-looking physics equations.
He didn't do that.
It looked like he did.
If he did, he's got too much time in his hands.
He's a clever guy, clearly.
Yeah.
But he explained that if you are rotating one part of your body backwards in order to send the other part out, you're basically taking away mass that could be going forward. You're bringing it back instead. Now, you're going to be faster that way. If you're rotating back and forward at the same time, basically rotating around the center, it's going to be nice and fast. But we're talking about power generation here. So, if you rotate around the left side of the body to punch with the right hand,
I mean, it's
you're
the same
going to
way.
be rotating all your body mass around, and it's going to be stronger.
I mean, it's the same way when we talk about, like, when I teach my guys Yakuzuki, when Scott Sensei teaches Yakuzuki in class, when we're training, and we talk about, the front knee not moving when you're in Zenkutsu Dachi, when you're punching Yakuzuki. Keep the front knee still. And that goes for moving it forward and backwards as well. And you see some very high level people when they punch Yakuzuki, their left, like they're punching with the right hand, their right hip's going forward, and then they're pulling the left hip back, and the body weight's going backwards. When we say, no, feel like you're squeezing in towards that left inner thigh muscle.
Exactly.
That's where where that rotation should be finishing, yeah?
That's the axis.
That door hinge that he talks about in Karate Principles, available in
available on Amazon.
And he talks about that door hinge movement where one hip doesn't move, the other hip's doing all the motion forward and backwards. And I think, I don't think there's an argument for putting your hand on your hip creates more power. I think that's silly. I don't think that's...
No, I think you're right. No, hikite has nothing to do with power generation. Funakoshi said it, therefore it's got to be true.
It's got to be true.
But on Thursdays when we're doing our tube training, our resistance band training, we do stand there with our arm outstretched, holding onto the tube, and we practice pulling hikite, with the resistance band on, so we can... Is that to increase speed? Why have I been training that way, Ross Sensei?
Well, I think it's because think about the muscles that are used when you punch. I think that your lats, when you locking your lats in, like your lats are used constantly when you punch and when you pull. True. Lats are always moved. Like the rhomboids, the back muscles, we use them a lot for blocking, for defending, for almost every technique uses some form of your back muscles. So hikite, like I say, to constantly be doing it is nothing but training those muscle groups. It's a good form of training those muscle groups, better than if we just leave it still. So again, we're always training both sides of the body at the same time. We're never just working on one arm, one side with the body, one peg. It's always trying to use as much of the body as we can at one time. And it's difficult. Like doing hikite is difficult. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's much easier to leave your hand by your cheek and punch with your right hand than it is to make hikite. So we're making it harder for ourselves. But I don't think people should equate the training mechanism that we use to make our karate more difficult and saying that's the way that we should then do it. We should take things away when we apply karate. We shouldn't add things on.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So Ian Abernethy, if you ever listen to this, I think you're correct.
He won't be listening to this because Ian Abernethy Sensei will not be listening to this. I can't get the video up because he has bowed out. He's like your man from Brexit. He stirred up all the crap and then went, "Whoops, sorry, I'm out of here."
See, he went, "I'm done. I'm out of here." No point. I'm gonna pull that up, Jamie. I'm gonna pull it up here.
Seconds ago, just something dawned on me. There is no point at all in flogging a dead horse and expecting that horse to tap out. It ain't gonna happen. I'm so done with the hikite thing. I'm done. I know some of you get it, some of you won't, and some of you are never ever gonna change your views, you know. So I've done what I can. I've done what I can. All right? Through with it. Over. Done.
That's the most upset I've ever seen him.
And he's smiling the way through it, but I could listen to his accent. Like
it's so
I've got
good.
the Scottish. His accent's brilliant.
Where
I love
does he
his
come
accent.
from?
I'm not sure
Somewhere
exactly.
in the north of England, right?
Yeah, but I mean and his mouth opens so wide when he talks. It's great. He's so enthusiastic about everything.
Some of you get it, some of you won't.
That's brilliant. But yeah, I think it's a point. I think it's something that had to be said. I think that it's like a lot. Like I think a lot of the it's time to get away from the misconceptions of karate. Like there's a lot of people out there who are so caught up in the superficial aspects of karate.
And they're absolutes as well. They speak in absolutes.
And I think Ian Abernethy is one of the guys at the front of the pack who is pulling away, like opening the blinds, pulling away the veil, and showing that things don't necessarily aren't necessarily required for making karate work. And I think Scott Sensei does the same thing. He's very clear when he says this is purely for training, and this is for application. I think he does that when Scott Sensei teaches bunkai application. He's never following the strict form of the kata. No. He's always saying this is what is stylized, what has become pretty karate, and what the original form was, and what it can be applied to. And I think that anyone who's thinking that it's the be all end all, the way that their senseis taught them, that's the way it must be, I think that's just going to stop your progress, really. Yeah. I think you should be open to it, open to new ideas, and open to people's opinions.
Of all the famous YouTube sensei, I think Ian Abernethy is probably doing the most for karate, like for advancing karate.
I think both, it's definitely one of them. I think advancing karate, yeah. I think, like I said, I think just taking it, like he's taking it to a grassroots level of this is how we apply it. But I mean, I think sometimes that's great, but I think we also need to remember that martial art, we have to have a bit of art in it, and sometimes, when people because then you get some people who just dismiss what we do completely. So when we perform kata, they say, well, what's the point? Just practice, just spar and practice fighting, and just only do application. Don't. Why are you worried about if you're turning on your heel or your ball? Why are you worried about the small nuances of technique? And it's like, well, because it is an art form, and you do have, and it is a way of challenging your body and your mental fortitude and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, like it's like when
and it looks cool, man.
It looks cool, but it's like when people punch, like, oh, my elbow comes out when I do yakuzuki, but I still hit the hardest in class. And it's like, well, it's not just about hitting the hardest; it's also about challenging your body and sticking to form. And there's a little bit of tradition in there, and that can't be forgotten either. So it's a balancing act, I think. Yeah. For
example, perhaps if you committed yourself to perfecting your form, that would show a lot about your character.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that that's a lot harder than just being able to go out and smack someone. Yeah. I mean, you see all the time on I think Lyoto Machida done Basai Dai at an open workout. He was performing Basai Dai before a big fight, when they let the media in to see them work out and stuff. And the amount of comments saying that kata is useless, it's nonsense, and just the martial artists out there who are just dogging it, and you're thinking, well, it's not useless, because this guy's a former world champion, one of the highest level.
He's a world-class fighter.
Yeah, world-class fighter, and he's practicing it, so he must have some benefit from doing it, otherwise he wouldn't bother.
Yeah. So, and then that beautiful knockout, was that just last year? The one where the Maigeri to the
twice
chin?
Now, yeah. Oh. I mean, that's just basic karate, and you're only capable of doing something like that by following your just basic principle technique and following it. So I think that people who dismiss the traditional aspects, to such a great extent are just as bad as the people who don't, who follow it blindly. You know, I think it's that balancing act. You have to have a bit of both.
It's best if everybody keeps an open mind, I think.
Yeah. Try and be in the middle of the spectrum, not at either end.
Yeah. We have now got to do our what will become a regular segment, the Fail of the Week.
Fail of the week. This is a good exercise in keeping our egos in check, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
So, fail of the week. What's your fail of the week? What happened?
Oh, yesterday, during Scott's class in the evening, we were practicing Heian Sandan. And do you know the bit where you're... What's the name of that technique? It's not an ashibarai, it's a hizauke. Hizauke.
Yes.
Yes. We were doing the hizauke. And getting so it's the big squeeze to get that knee up, also having that angle in the lower part of your leg, so it's not just pointing straight down. And Scott came up with an exercise in pairs where one partner would, and he brought me up to demonstrate. So he says, "Okay, Rue, lift your knee up like that," and I did. And he says, "Okay, one partner is going to squeeze that knee into their center," and he starts pushing my knee. He holds me from the back, and he starts pushing my knee up to my center, and he goes, "They're really, really squeezing that knee up into the..." And my knee won't move. Anybody who's seen me do karate know that I struggle with flexibility. So he's desperately trying to push that knee up, and the idea is that when he lets go, I'm gonna spring forward and do the fumikomi landing in kibadachi, but the knee just wouldn't go anywhere, and he's pushing, and then just goes, "Oh, for fuck's sake, Ross, get over here!" And I had to.
And if you see me do karate, I have no problem with flexibility.
Yeah. So it was a great success from then on. I just stalked meekly back to the line. Yeah, that's my fail of the week. I need to get more flexible. And he'd actually told me just that morning that I need to work on my flexibility. So I don't know what he was thinking would happen.
It's nothing worse than being rejected as an uke once you've been pulled up. I've got a great story that I'll tell sometime about being told to sit down after being pulled up for an uke. Yeah, I think Rue knows the story, but I will share that with you another time.
Next time.
Because it's a long story. But my fail of the week was, first, we kicked off morning training again this week. And I trained super hard on the Tuesday. Was trained hard Monday night, super hard Tuesday morning. I was gearing to go, but Tuesday evening, man, Wednesday morning, I guess 4 o'clock in the morning, I felt so sick. I got up and vomited. I was vomiting. I don't know what I'd eaten that caused me to do it, but it was I don't know. My stomach was just rejecting whatever was in it. It was pretty bad. And all that big G'ing up for the new year, momentum and stuff was wasted because I had to skip morning training and everyone made fun of me because I had to come in and teach a class straight after morning training. So I showed up and everyone just assumed that I was being a lazy bastard. And it was like,
we were covered in sweat, just done a weight session, and you saunter in the door and we turn around and go, "Fail!" But it turned out he was very sick.
I was very sick. I don't skip training just because I'm lazy. Never have, never will.
You're usually kind of late, though.
That's just because I live far away. But the fail of the week, the general fail of the week, the fail that we've observed. Mm-hmm. So that's our personal fails. But the fail of the week had to be
the pissy towels.
The pissy towels. The pissy towels incident.
I was teaching on Tuesday here in the dojo. It was the 3 o'clock white belt class, and I have little ones in the class. They're either 5 and 6, maybe 4, 5 and 6. So very small. And we were starting off. We were going to do 29 Chokozuki for 2019. All right?
Perfect.
New year. So I was going, ich, ha, knee, ha. They were loving it. Next thing, we were doing the last 9, and everybody, they were doing their little ki-eyes and everything, and all of a sudden a puddle is forming beneath one of my little students. Oh. So it's the first time it's ever happened, so I just ran over and grabbed him, picked him up at arm's length, and sprinted down to the bathroom. I deposited him in there. A grown-up was close behind me to help clean him up and put his tracksuits on. So I then sprinted out to the dojo, got a red belt to take over, teaching them how to do Chokozuki and Maigeri, but he was too shy. He was going to show them how to do it, but he couldn't talk. So I was there with the bottle of bleach and a load of towels, cleaning up while going, itch, knee, looking over my shoulder to make sure they're doing it right. Anyway, cleaned it up, put the towels in a black plastic bag and left them behind the counter in the dojo. later on that evening.
So I'm in the middle of teaching my class, and I hear Scott Sensei coming out going, Rue, what are these towels doing in my office? And Rue goes, oh, don't touch them, those are the pissy towels. Scott says he's holding these piss-drenched towels in his hand. So that was Scott saying fail. That was the funniest fail of the week. Goes to Scott Sensei this week. I'm sure it'll be someone else next week. But yeah, always good to laugh at yourself. This dojo's full of encouragement, and we really big each other up.
And that's the fail of the week. So, next up on our little agenda of things that we want to talk about on this here podcast thingy.
So I'm sitting on John's bed just now. I'm doing this sitting on. We have a John Shanahan Sensei staying with us just now for a month. He can't be here today, unfortunately, but well, maybe next week.
Oh, we should do a wee interview.
We interview with him next week, see how he's getting on. But he's doing our HDKI internship just now, so he's here for a month. He's helping out in all the classes. He's training in all the classes. And, just doing little bits and bobs around the dojo, making sure it's clean and tidy for us coming in.
He's also imparting his wisdom in the changing room quite a lot.
He is a sixth dan, so very, very odd for someone at that level to be doing something like this. It's not, but he loves it. He loves doing it, and he is a great addition to the team. I think for this month's going to be an exciting month because he has a lot of wisdom, just life wisdom.
Life wisdom, karate wisdom. He's been around the block with regards karate.
You listen to some of his stories; some of them are brilliant. He's graded in Japan under Kagawa Sensei. Sparred with some of the top guys over there, some of the kenshusei boys over there.
Yeah.
He's been around since way before I was born. Sorry, John, but way before I was born. Way before you were born. So it's great having him here. But our man here, Rue, he also done the HDKI internship.
Yep. Last March.
Mm-hmm. So
nearly a year.
How did you find your time in the internship?
Well, I was living away from Dublin at the time. So I wasn't regularly attending the Hombu Dojo, and I was going to start up a little club and start teaching. I wanted karate to be a more important part of my life, so I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start a dojo down here. And I thought, before I do that, I really wanted to do it properly. So before I go and do that, I'm going to ask Scott Sensei if I can try the internship. And he said yes straight away. He said, it's a great idea. It'll really give you a good head start with regards to the dojo. So I did. I came up here. I slept on this couch. It's a sofa bed. It's actually super, super comfy.
It's very nice.
I spent a month in the dojo. I'd say an average of 6 to 7 hours in my bare feet on the dojo floor every day. Morning training, assisting all the kids' classes, training in the evening, cleaning up around the place, doing a few odd bits and bobs, odds and ends, keeping the place running. And it was a lot of training, a lot of karate. Oh, I also sat in on all the business meetings every Tuesday, so I got a real good insight into the running of a professional dojo. Things like advertising, things like tracking membership, taking payments, and also kind of how students are managed. If a question comes up about maybe a grading or anything, and then how the sensei who are familiar with that particular student will talk about it, discuss it, gave me a lot of really good insight into how a dojo is run. Like I said, it was invaluable.
Well, that's the kind of thing that I think we're trying to do with guys who come and do the internship. So what we normally do is people that Shodan and above come in, they stay for a month. I think Juan stayed the longest for 3.
Was it 3 months?
2 or 3 months.
2 or 3 months.
2 or 3 months. Felt like 3 months, man. By the time you left, you were like, good riddance. Just joking, man. But and yeah, that's what we try and do, and we try our best to be welcoming and helpful. We try and encourage. We're not standoffish. We're not out to make your life harder. We're there to make your life easier, and
it's got to be the friendliest kenshusei program in the world.
That's it. I mean, and with your time here, I mean, what was the toughest aspect of being here, do you think?
The toughest aspect was the volume of training.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the volume of training and volume of time spent doing karate, whether it's assisting or training or whatever. And also, it was a shock, and also being away from home, sleeping here in the dojo, there was a culture shock, a bit of a shock to the system in a lot of different regards. So comfort was limited.
And that's with you having trained in this dojo for
I was
while.
already familiar with the dojo. I was already friends with you guys and everything like that. So I can imagine for somebody who comes from, such as Juden, we had an intern here around at the same time that I was here. He came from Sri Lanka.
Yeah,
and he was
in the winter.
He didn't even.
Time, yeah.
The poor guy didn't even. The food. He'd never been to Europe, so the food was a shock. The way the place runs generally was a big shock to him. So yeah.
And for people who again, Ruse he was training in the morning with us before, so it wasn't brand new to you. But the intensity definitely picks up when you're doing the internship.
Definitely, and
there's more asked of you.
There was a bit more focus on my own progression, and it was added pressure, but it was also just so great that you guys were taking a special interest in my improvement.
Yeah,
it felt good.
Because at that point you're no longer a member of the dojo. You're now here for a purpose. You have we take it upon ourselves to try and like I say, help people out. Encourage them along and. Just be very harsh with her. with
At the
karate.
end of the day, that person is going to take a certificate away. So in a way, they're going to be representative of the intern program, and in a way, representative of the dojo.
Well, that's it, and we want to make sure that they're better when they leave than when they got here, in whatever way we can help out. But yeah, so that. So John's here doing that just now. He's just kicked off. We'll see how he gets on. But I think it's starting to get we're starting to get someone in every couple of months now. I think we've got a...
Is this our 8th intern?
Yeah, it's been quite a few. Quite different though. I had a kenshusei experience with Richard Amos Sensei in New York. A little bit nicer than Dublin, I think. But I was over for a month in New York with Rich Sensei. And yeah, that wasn't I think the benefit I had from being a full-time instructor here was I was already used to teaching. I teach the most, I think, in the dojo, the most hours. I think probably the most hours out of just about anyone in Ireland.
Yeah.
I teach a lot of hours.
There's no other karate instructor in Ireland teaching 19 hours a week.
21.
You're doing 21?
21, just saying. 21 hours a week, so it's a lot. And so I had the benefit of teaching more, actually, than what I was when I was over there. And we try and train very, very hard in the mornings here. A lot of technical input in the evening classes when I'm training with Scott Sensei. So to go over there and adjust this, it's very different. The big shock was it's a very different style of karate, which was great. Scott Sensei's style of karate, I think, is excellent, and his way of teaching is excellent. He teaches. And I think one of the big differences, Rich Sensei, you feel like he's coaching you through the class. You feel a lot more one-to-one times being spent on you while you're over there. Again, his style of karate is very different. I think they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. Scott's very flexible and whippy. Richard's very connected. So that was a fun challenge to try and basically change your karate for a month. And which is nice, 'cause there's definitely some things I've kept from that time there. But it was, I think that I was very lucky going over for the month after spending a good 2 years over here, and getting used to training hard and often and teaching a lot. So I think a lot of people would probably I think if I hadn't been doing that, I would have struggled a lot, because you are, like you say, immersed. You're cleaning the dojo, you're assisting in every class, you're training in every class, you're making sure everything's in shape. Sometimes you're going up and doing the yoga with the auntie and stuff. It's a very immersive experience, but the one benefit is I get to go out and do touristy stuff in New York. I was at the top of the Empire State Building in the afternoon and training in the evening.
That's
great.
Cool, man. But
great.
What was the hardest thing about that?
Hardest thing
about your your kenshusei program over there?
I think the thing that I found quite tough is that we had to write reports when we were over there, and I'd never I wasn't confident. That was the thing I was most worried about.
Yeah.
Turns out when I got over there and I started writing that just flows out of you, especially when you're immersed in the karate. So that was the thing I was most worried about. But the toughest thing I think was, I think it was the heat, man. The heat over there. It was summertime and it was like down Sensei's dojo's underground, like in the basement, and he had like 4 little fans that did nothing except blow hot air. So it was like sometimes the floor was like an ice rink, the amount of sweat that was coming off everyone. It was really hot. So training in that heat, like we never get that heat. I never experienced it in Scotland. I've never experienced it here in Dublin. So that was the toughest thing, the heat.
Wow.
Training like to the same like intensity as I would here, but with the heat cranked right up. That New York summer heat. So that made it a bit tougher. That made you have to dig a little bit deeper.
So the hardest thing wasn't sparring Richard Amos?
Well, that was horrible. Yeah, he was very. He never. I'm still here, so it was very scary. He would come down in the morning sometime and be like, "Okay, Ross, let's move around," and I'd be like, "Oh no." Just
you know what that means?
and you're very. It's very difficult. Same here. We spar in the mornings with Scott. Scott says he's. Like Rich said, never hurt you, but you don't want to do it. Like you don't want to hit them.
It's scary.
It's scary because there's that balance. I think that's a struggle for a lot of people. I think are like, because the people who don't understand that this person is the sensei, your senior, you have to show respect. Mm-hmm. You can't just go in guns a-blazing and try and smack them in the face.
Sure.
Not that you would be able to anyway.
But they'll make you sorry if you try.
But that's the thing, and if you do, you'll find out quickly you shouldn't have done that. But at the same time, you don't want to cower away the whole time. You don't want to be too standoffish. So it's finding that balance of having a nice flowing exchange with them, but at the same time, not escalating.
Yeah.
To something where you will end up getting smacked.
Yeah. We have a guy who attends morning training, folks. Will we name him?
What, Karen?
Karen.
Big ball bag, Karen.
And he likes to escalate. And when I started working here, so he was there all through my internship, I'm pretty sure, but he left me alone. But when I started working here last September, I became a full-time instructor on the Hombu Dojo team. And man, he would thump me around in the mornings quite a lot.
That says welcome to the club.
Yeah. So I haven't sparred with him in ages, but that was one of my first kind of medium-term goals, that I wouldn't be intimidated by Karen anymore in morning training. So Karen, if you're listening to this,
you're gonna get it.
You're
Karen.
dead.
And if he doesn't get it, Sean will. Karen. Sean's coming for you.
Everyone's out for Karen.
Everyone's out for Karen. And it's because he escalates. Sometimes it is fun.
Yeah.
To take up a notch, just a tad. It is fun, as long as it doesn't get to the point, because we have to do this every day.
Yeah.
And if you're maybe not going 100% and you clip somebody and then they come guns a-blazing at you because their ego takes over and they think, oh, I just got hit in the chin, I need to hit them back, and then you end up getting silly injuries and stuff like that. There is nothing more annoying than getting a silly injury from someone who's just lashing in with their techniques. It's very frustrating. That happened actually. I was teaching over in America, and I was just doing a nice and easy kumite drill, but it was two friends that had come to train in the class, and I could see they were starting to escalate. They were starting to get fast and quite heavy-handed. I said, guys, it doesn't matter who hit who. It's not about winning or losing. It's just about working together, improving together, and It was that way where one of them ended up with a massive black eye at halfway through the class, and we had to stop and get some ice on it and stuff. And it's that way where that just spoils everything.
Yeah, I know, man. Getting your ego too involved with what you're doing, and it can be detrimental. And it was mentioned at the beginning of the podcast as well, and I said we were going to come back to it, because when we talk about ego, I'm always reminded of one time when I asked Scott Sensei over breakfast, after morning training, how involved should your ego be in your training? And he ended up, first he made a joke like he always does whenever I ask a question, makes me feel bad for asking a question, and then he imparted his wisdom, and he said, what did he say? He said 100%.
Yeah.
He said, what is it? Well, I can't remember how he said it, but the point was, to make progress and to improve, you've got to be doing it for yourself. Therefore, it's an egocentric pursuit.
I vaguely remember the breakfast conversation, but I remember more after the staff party. We had a staff party just before Christmas, and the three of us were the last men standing.
Yeah.
And that's when you get Scott Sensei at his best, because he has no filter. He just lets all the secrets come out.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, he said, "Well, look at Ross. Ross is an egomaniac." He said, yeah. And he said, "And look at me. I'm a maniac. I'm an egomaniac." Like he was calling us both egomaniacs, and he said, "But that's what you need to improve." And I think it's knowing when to rein it in.
Right.
So, for example, if someone is giving me feedback on the dojo, it doesn't matter who it is, I'm going to listen and improve on what they've just told me, regardless of whether I think I'm technically better than them, if I'm physically faster, stronger. If I think I'm better at karate, it doesn't make a difference, because everyone can see if you're doing something right or wrong. Everyone has something to offer you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you're training with, who you're getting taught by. You can always pick something up. So you should never be dismissive of anyone. But at the same time, when I walk on the dojo, I go, well, I'm going to be better than everyone on the dojo. Regardless of who gives me feedback, I'm going to be like, you're going to struggle. I'm going to be always aiming for, you will have nothing to say about this because this is about to be perfect.
Yeah.
Never is, but that's the goal. And I think it has to be. And I think that you have to have like friendly rivalries, like always, like Tommy Sensei, like Tommy Butler, for those of you who don't know him. He's a full-time chef. Very successful chef, but he's also technically probably apart from Scott Sensei in this dojo, probably technically the best.
The best, yeah.
Definitely at kata anyway.
Yeah.
Like, he's definitely the best in the dojo at kata. And every time we do kata, I'm standing beside him and I'm saying, today's the day. I'm going to be better at this kata than Tommy Sensei. And never. But that's the goal, and my goal is to always be better than Tommy. Now, me and Tommy are great friends. We hang out outside the dojo all the time and stuff, and the ego part of me of trying to be better than Tommy doesn't affect my opinion of Tommy or how I treat Tommy or how we interact or anything like that. So it's having that, little bit of, and we both know it. We both compete against each other all the time. Like there were three of us, yourself, myself, and Tommy were up doing oikomi up and down the dojo in the Tabata session the other day, and the three of us are trying to be first finished.
I was trying.
We're trying to be first finished, and me and Tommy are probably the fastest at it, and me and Tommy are both neck and neck the whole way through it, to the point where when we're finished, we've collapsed on the floor afterwards. And that it's just that nice fun ego trip where you desire to be the best, I think, is the most important thing to improving.
In the context of that oikomi exercise, you can definitely say that getting your ego involved is beneficial, because you trained as hard as you possibly could in that moment because you were trying to be faster than Tommy. But there are times when involving your ego too much, I think, can be detrimental. Maybe not, I don't know if it'd be detrimental for your training necessarily, but certainly I have noticed a bad vibe can kind of come up around a person, say during a kumite drill. Say it's Thursday, Scott is like, he's doing some fun stuff, and everybody is getting really fired up, the key eyes are flying, and everybody's trying to score. Everybody's like really trying to get stuck in. And then you see people with this dark look come over their face, and they get punched in the teeth few too many times, and they just get so upset, and then they don't want to talk, and they, I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. Keeping it in check. I mean, I think with sparring it's tricky because nobody likes getting hit in the head. Nobody likes getting hit. Nobody likes losing, and it's a very competitive thing. Sparring, even when you're trying to flow and relax, you're still trying to hit the other person and not get hit. Yeah. So there's always a competitive element to sparring, and I think that some people aren't. There's one or two people that I know that are not mature enough to be able to spar friendly and freely without escalating, like I was talking about earlier, without bringing it back to a more personal place than it needs to be. It should just be about self-improvement. And when I'm sparring with someone, like for example, the other day you caught me a good one in the chin. The other day when we were sparring, you wouldn't have, like, I wasn't like, oh my god, like that's it, I'm going to have to kill Rue. You know, like that's it. Sometimes you get caught, like even when you think, oh, I shouldn't be getting caught like that. You know, you give yourself a hard time. You don't give the other person a hard time. You give yourself a hard time and you say thank you to the person because they keep you on your toes. They're improving you. Getting caught in the chin shows that you're making improvements, and it shows that I need to, you know, make sure I'm still switched on all the time and stuff. And it goes for anyone who's sparring and gets caught. That's, well, cop on and learn. Don't shut down. Talk. Say. Ask. Why is it that I'm getting hit every time I try this technique? What is it that you're seeing that's and picking me off with? You know, it should be a conversation piece, not a way of dividing the dojo. You know.
Because at the end of the day, we're all here to improve, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm here to be the best. Don't I? I'm here to be the best. That's my goal. I'm here to be.
Yeah, well, you'll have to improve a bit then.
But that's what, like, I mean, when I interviewed for the job with Scott, I think it's 4 years ago now. I remember one of the questions he asked. We were sitting down, we were having a coffee, and we were just blathering away. He was going to catch a flight, so it was a quick interview. But one of the questions he asked me was, "Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?" And first thing that came to my head, and I blurted out, I said, "Like you, but better." And he laughed, and he was like, "All right, you cheeky fuck." But like at the same time, though, that, like, what's the point if that's not the goal? You might never do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, go for it. You know, like you, but better. And that's my goal. That was my goal back then. It's still my goal now. I want to be better than Scott by the time I'm really old.
Oh, stay tuned, folks.
Ross's new teeth. How they feel on the next podcast. But yeah, but I think, yeah, people need to control their ego, but also allow themselves to be driven to the point where they want to be the best, better than everyone, and not let it hold themselves back. Like you were saying, you were having a tough time initially when it came to sparring people and stuff. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Not to sort of, again, especially when there's a lot of senior grades and morning training. Can I smack this person? Can I hit this person in the face without insulting them? And that's the tricky thing, especially with a traditional martial art like karate, because there is the hierarchy.
Yeah.
There is, a certain level of respect that needs to be shown to senior grades, especially people who are older than you and stuff. If you're coming in as a young junior grade, it can be difficult, and it's something that's, you know, it's a good thing. It's a nice thing when you've earned that respect and that recognition. But it's also, it can be detrimental in the sense that you then are holding back so much.
Yeah.
But you were saying you were having trouble initially finding the motivation and stuff to be able to go in and have a proper go at some of the guys in the morning.
Yeah. I sort of I didn't start off like you and Scott Sensei did with that notion. I guess I'm just too humble. Too humble to be a HDKI instructor.
The most humble person you know, yeah?
yeah, that's me. No, I just, whatever it was, I was lacking that extra bit of thirst for victory, I suppose. But, you know, my attitude has changed a lot in the 3.5 months since I've been a full-time instructor here, and it's coming. Like, I've learned by example. I've learned by getting thumped around a bit, kind of having my own ego bruised a bit, and I've also learned from those times when Scott Sensei will open up and tell you exactly what your problem is. Yeah. You know what your problem is? How many times have I heard that lately? So yeah, I know what my problem is now, and I can see that things are going to be different. New year, same me, just better. Way better. That's
the goal. That's the goal right there. Mm-hmm. And on that note, I think we'll sign off, yeah?
Yeah, time to say bye.
Sign off. Until next time, guys.
Okay. Thanks for listening, folks. Tune in again.
Deep bows. Oh.